Jumbo, my friends, and welcome to What the Foss, a podcast that takes an alternative look at fitness methods, mental health, and goal-setting strategies. I'm Coach Zoe, and today we're going to talk about what the Foss is Foss. So to do this, I'm going to tell you a bit about my past and specific stories that lead up to this point. We're going to talk about the meaning behind Foss and what it can do for you. And we're also going to talk about what this podcast will be all about. So to start off, let's talk about a little bit of the past to bring it to this point. So one of my main sports was playing rugby. I used to love to play rugby. I played it for years, and it was a great time, a great sport, and I met a lot of great people from it. But the biggest thing that rugby provided me was the teachings of how to properly do goal setting. And the reason for this is that the goal setting in rugby, for me, was that I needed to make sure that I was the fittest player on the field, whether that was endurance or some strength. I wanted to make sure that I could be the fittest guy out there for each time that I got tackled or made a tackle. I could get up over and over again to keep performing at my best. And because I love the sport so much, it's why I trained for the sport by running and lifting weights and doing some proper food eating strategies. But at some point, all things come to an end. And I figured out that rugby kind of ended for me when it was my final tournament in college. After playing rugby for about 7 years, it came to the point where we were a match or two away from playing in this televised tournament on TV. And I was looking forward to it, and I missed a crucial tackle at the end of the game that we ended up losing the match. And that was it. That was the end of my eligibility, end of my rugby career. And I felt like I didn't have any other goals to go for after that. From there, my new goals were found in my work. Like a lot of us, we set a lot of goals in our work for what we want to do or what we want to accomplish. And mine was in the fitness space because I'd love to stay fit for rugby. I used that same love of that fitness to try to put it in the fitness space. And so I started out as an intern for a gym, worked my way up to being a personal trainer, then to getting more education in strength and conditioning, being a strength and conditioning coach, and being a gym manager. And with all this, I got a lot of good experience and a lot of new goal setting experience. And you worked with clients every single day. You worked with teams. You worked with one-on-one personal training sessions. You worked with boot camps. You had to work with other employees and coaches. It took a lot, and you had to make sure that you were on track and staying with your goals, not only to stay fit enough to do the job every day, but to goal set for all the tasks that you had at hand. And then my mom got sick. And that put everything to a halt. I noticed that the things that I thought were worth my time or bringing me joy or were what I was supposed to do, they weren't. And although it was tough to leave, it was a life that I left the standard corporate gym life behind. And that's where my life got from being completely noisy and chaotic to being quiet and silent. Because in the noise and the chaos, I wasn't really focusing on anything that had to do with my family or friends. A lot of my friends kind of lost contact with me because I was terrible communicating with them because I was staying so focused on my work. And my family had family dinners and things like this, but I was working till 9:30 at night. And so I'd miss those family dinners most of the time. And that was the only time that we really got to bond as a family. And with that and with my mom's sickness, I had to separate from that. And now my life was completely silent because there was nothing to set goals for, and there was nothing that kept me on track. There wasn't anybody setting any deadlines or projects for me. It was I either had to set them or I would be lazy. And at first, I was just being lazy. I couldn't seem to get myself on track with what I thought I should be doing. And then I got more serious about running. And running was this activity that would always kind of be around, but I never got as serious as I did until I basically found out about my mom's illness of cancer. And from that gave me the goal that I now love to do, which is running and trying to get better at running. And now, to back up, I used to hate running. If you're sitting here listening to me and you're like, but Zoe, I hate running, I'm just not a runner. I get it. I used to despise running. It made me feel like garbage, and I didn't want to get out each day and try to do it. But I ended up finding a love-hate relationship with it and growing with it, and it was something that kept me fit and kept me on track over the years. And that's where I want to get to more of the point of what FOSS means. Now, if you're in the South, a lot of people might say FAS or something because they don't see that little accent mark, but it's FOSS. And FOSS means that it is a Irish Gaelic word that is a verb that means to grow or become. And through this, it was basically a mantra that I had, a phrase I would always say to myself, a word phrase, if you will, that kept me on track for things, that if I was messing up at something or I didn't feel good at something, that I know it's just a growing phase, or it's going to become something more if I put the time into it. And that's sort of what I want FOSS to mean to you. I want it to be something where it's an activity that you grow through. So I think a lot of people, possibly you, seem to get to a point in their lives where the only reason that they might try to be fit or healthy is because their doctor told them to, or because they want to keep their beer belly off, or because they want to feel like they did when they were younger. And I think the big thing missing from that is, instead of just trying to go to work out just to fight those things that are, for the most part, pretty visual things, I think instead it's about finding an activity or an alternative sport that seems to bring you joy. And from that joy that you get from that sport or that activity, that's what keeps you to keep trying to be fit, is that you want to keep doing that activity that you enjoy for as long as you can, injury-free, because it makes you happy. And if you can find that activity that makes you happy, I believe that staying fit for that activity will drive you more to do that fitness that you were going to do if you were just trying to lose your belly or tone up or lean up or whatever term you want to use. So through this podcast and through all this time, one of the things I'm going to be trying to do is to help you find a new activity and find something that you enjoy. If you've already found that activity you enjoy, great. I'm very happy for you. But I think we can always be better and we can always grow through fitness and through movement in order to be better at those activities that we love and enjoy, whether we know what they are or we don't. For me, those activities were things like transitioning from rugby to maybe doing running. And I figured out that running was that activity that I love to do. And perhaps sometimes in the future, maybe it won't be running. I'm a big runner now, but perhaps I will try whitewater kayaking, which I've never tried before, and I'll love that. And maybe I'll get more into that. The point is that you need to try these different activities in order to figure out what you love. It doesn't have to be anything as extreme as whitewater kayaking It can be something like ballroom dancing. It can just be something like archery. I mean, it can be hiking. You know, it doesn't have to be some extreme kind of Red Bull type of sport. It can just be something that you find joy in doing that activity. So what can this podcast do, and where are we going to go with it? So this podcast, What the Foss, is going to be answering questions and providing the feedback for questions that I get about different activities, different sports, usually different alternative sports. So when I say alternative sports, I mean things that you might not think of at first. I know when you're going through school, football, basketball, baseball, you know, those are some like 3 major sports. But if you're out of that time of college, sometimes those sports, they aren't really sports that you find playing yourself in the day-to-day world, or find a lot of areas where you could play those sports. But a lot of different solo sports, I think, could push you a lot more than some of those team sports at times. And so where this is going is this podcast is basically going to try to bring you different ideas on ways you may be able to grow through movement. At the same time, I want to make sure that you're improving on some of your mental habits as well that come along with whatever sport that you choose and come along with the fitness training that you do. I'm going to be offering some deep personal stories of my own that'll hopefully help you learn from my experience. I'm going to be also offering some feedback on different alternative sports that I try myself that I've never tried before, but I'm trying them for you to help you not only see if you might enjoy the sport, but also kind of get a better idea of how you might train for it. And also a couple things more fun, like some game show style interviews that I'll have with specific guests that I hope to bring some insight on a lot of different activities or mental habits or goal setting strategies that might help you out on even a day-to-day basis for whatever activity that you might do. If you have any questions for me, I highly encourage you to check out the website www.fossmovementtraining.com. I will happily answer any of your questions there, and that will also give you some links to connect with me on social media. And I thank you for your time. I can't wait to see where this podcast goes, and I hope that you continue to explore your movement.